You've heard me say this before, that Kenya is not short of documents, papers, policies, strategies. What we are short of is actual action on the ground, the implementation of these brilliant documents that have already been done. On today's episode, we get to delve deep into an initiative that we are working on in collaboration with amazing partners to try and get that done in the green economy space as we address the issue of young people and unemployment. My name is Sellah Bogonko, co-founder and CEO, Jacob's Ladder Africa, and this is Green Jobs Africa. So David, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So today's episode, we'd like to hear some of the things that we are working on ahead of the inaugural Green Jobs and Skills Development Workshop. But before we get into the nitty-gritties, a little bit about yourself, your organization, and then we'll get into the other things.
Asante sana. Thanks again. So I'm David Rubia. I work for the United Nations Environment Program, here commonly known as UNEP. Well, not here, but yes, that's our acronym, UNEP. I work in the regional office for Africa. And specifically, I'm helping implement an initiative. It's called Global Opportunities for Sustainable Development Goals. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Short for it is Go for SDGs. It's helping accelerate SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production, and SDG 8, economic growth. But I focus mainly in Africa. Now, why we're here and why we're excited is because as part of this, we're working together on seeing how we can advance jobs for our youth in Africa. I think for me, the narrative is very simple. And the first, so maybe I can get a bit more into the pact if you'd like.
Yes.
So the pact, the Green Jobs for Youth Pact, was formed about 2 years ago now. It's a collaborative platform. It came on the back of the Stockholm Plus 50 International Conference. This is a conference in Stockholm, Sweden, which was looking back on the initial human and environment conference in Stockholm, which actually created UNEP. So that's the first time we realized we're having an impact on the environment as humans. We need to do something about it. So in 1972, people came together, and from there, UNEP was created. So then 2022, there was a look back. Where have we come in 50 years? Let's have a conversation about what we need to do. How can we rapidly scale up action on reversing the impact on the environment that we have? So then those 3 legacy initiatives, and one of them came from youth voice. The youth were like, we need to be involved. We're not even economically engaged. So we need jobs, and we need green jobs, because if we can't continue with the same old business as usual kind of jobs. So Green Jobs for Youth Pact was formed, collaborative partnership between UNEP, the International Labour Organization, and the UN Children Education Fund, UNICEF. So that was about 2 years ago. There was a launch at the African COP in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, but now we're starting to get the work on the ground. And here, because we're headquartered in Kenya, we
thought to start here.
Yes, so we tried to do some activities, and we did some good work. We created a curriculum on green jobs for sustainable tourism. We did some training of sustainable entrepreneurs. But we quickly realized something. We're just doing piecemeal activities.
Precisely.
And when we looked around, and it's part of what you said in the intro, and I'm speaking here, I know this is a case in every African country, but looking at Kenya, we realize there's so many amazing things happening. Anyone you can mention, development partners, entrepreneurs, finance institutions, you just walk around and talk around to different people, and there's somebody investing in waste management, somebody else is doing something with repurposing waste, somebody else is doing something renewable energy, electric mobility is a big buzz now. What was missing, we thought, when we were looking for the next activity, where do we come in on an activity level, is we realize there's need for this to be coordinated. There's this for this to be sort of roped together and to be directioned, so that we're pulling in the same direction, and we're not working in silos. We're not quote unquote competing. We're not working against each other. And so that coordination and collaboration is something that we as the Pact, working with yourselves and a lot of other exciting partners, as you said, want to see happen in this country. And to be honest, that will be a model for every African country and every country in the world. Because I think everyone can attest to the fact that we put on our silos, for good or for bad. We develop a nice policy, or we try to do a nice project on the ground. But how is it linked to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so that
and
is what
then
we're trying to do.
the more important question for me is, if there's been all this effort around, let's even talk about the design of our capital city or other cities in the continent. We have the plans, we have the on paper.
Yes.
We have plans around waste management on paper.
Yes.
We have great laws, we have fantastic even initiatives that are started, and sometimes with a change of regime comes a different program, and therefore a lot of things are left hanging. And sometimes it results to almost like doing a lot of activity like the Israelites. You're in the desert, you're heading somewhere, but you're literally going around in circles. And you're not really moving anywhere that could take you a much shorter time. But because of the lack of direction, lack of coordination, lack of purpose sometimes, you end up just going around in circles. True. So let's delve deep into the inaugural National Green Jobs and Skills Development Workshop. Tell us the idea around it, just for the sake of those that are listening. What was the idea around it? It was to address the issue of coordination.
Yes.
What are we hoping to see? And perhaps before we get there, what has been done so far? Because people are thinking, okay, not another convening, not another conference, not anher summit or workshop.
No, that's true.
What has been done so far, and what are we hoping to do differently?
Thanks. Really packed question. But I agree with you 100%. Every time I hear a workshop or conference, I'm like, on another conversation. And it's not to knock conversations, but, like, how are we going to get things done?
Yeah.
Having said that, the backstory to this, and you're familiar with this, is we decided to start, when we said, let's do something meaningful in Kenya, we decided to start having mini conversations with different entities. Jacob's Ladder is doing this, Jacob's Ladder Africa. The Palladium Group is doing this. AFDB or somebody else is doing that. Andy, Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, Strathmore University, lots of people, not mentioning anyone in totality here. So we had lots of conversations. We said, what are you doing? And what are you doing? And what are you thinking about doing? And so we were like, okay. So obviously the coordination thing came up. We're like, okay, there needs to be coordination, and then there needs to be ownership from a national level. Then the other thing is, how do we take stock of what's happening? And that's even why we were saying this workshop is not, we're calling the inaugural Green Jobs and Skills Development Workshop, but to be honest, it's sort of like a point in the process. There's a lot of work that's happened. It's really...
And a lot of work that will happen after.
Critically. It's the inflection point. It's where the growth curve really takes off, right? So what the ambition is to, one, sort of bring together everything that's happening as best as we can. We say everything, obviously we know some things might fall off the table, right? In terms of we might not capture it. But if we're honest and genuine to the process, we will bring as many people as we can to the table to highlight what it is that they're doing, showcase successes, and also identify some challenges, Now, we did start out saying we do not want to talk about a policy gap.
Yes.
We were very clear that we have amazing, beautiful policies that are gathering dust. We knew that we wanted to talk about the implementation gap. It's true, as we've gone through this process, we've realized that there are needs, there is need for some framework setting or for some, identifying and saying, Sellah is the captain, or David is a captain and he needs to do this, so that there is accountability and there is enforcement and there is looking back. So
just to fine tune on that point, the idea there is there are already people doing amazing work. It's 100%. More of harmonizing everyone, but also having, while we're saying government should, which is what people normally do, it's more of there's a role that government can play, but they will not be able to achieve this on their own. Otherwise, they would have by now. There has to be some form of coming together, private sector, CSOs, and all the players to help government, or government to help the players in that sector, but in a more coordinated and with clear mechanisms, and even tracking, of the outcomes and what everyone is doing in terms of the contribution. For example, if we're saying we're creating a certain number of jobs, or we're creating jobs in general, then we're tracking, is this actually happening? What are the sectors that are emerging and things 100%.
Like that? And when we say government, sometimes we always, we create this myth, this entity. And in essence, we're all government. The classic Kennedy Don't ask
what your government can do for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ask what you can do for your government or your country. So yes, government has a role in terms of the people that are in office to do our work. But we do need to have this collaboration. So yes, one of the things we wanted from the workshop is for government to say that this is how we're going to coordinate. Because one of the unique things about this challenge, green jobs, it cuts across so much.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't want to say amorphous, but it permeates, right? Everyone can say it's mine.
Yeah.
Everyone can say I'm Ministry of Labor, it is mine.
We actually saw that at the high-level roundtable with a several number of state departments, and many of them were saying, "I have this role to play. I've implemented this paper, or I've done this paper, I've done this." And the excitement from the government side, and here I'm talking about different state departments, was that you're actually answering the question that I've been having a challenge with.
You go.
And so you realize that they do need that support, but no one is doing that, bringing those two sections or multiple sections together.
True. And then another aspect to it is, and I hear this sometimes with leaders, is to talk about it from we need to do this, or we have this responsibility. I agree. I even have an sort of more, I don't want to say draconian, but it's like we have no choice.
Yeah.
And I wear two hats. I work for the UN, but I'm also Kenyan. And I do believe that we cannot have countries, let me not even isolate Kenya, any country in the world cannot continue on a trajectory where a majority of its population are out of the franchise.
Yeah.
That's one. So it's not even... And
actually on that point, the fact that we are getting to a place where the youth bulge is actually expanding rapidly. By 2050, you're going to have 1 in every 4 people in the world is African.
There you go.
Most of them, of course, residing in the African continent. Yes. So we do have an opportunity at hand.
It's an opportunity. And I'll even go further and say, picture, so you're trying to grow your economy, right? And you're saying you need jobs, but most of the people who can do the work, because if you think about it, youth are the most able, right? People between 18 and 35. And they're not being productive to that economy. You're trying to go into, maybe it's a bad analogy, into a boxing match with one of your hands tied behind your back, perhaps even 2. Because, you know what I mean? Because that's who else then will do the work? Who else then will be innovative? Who else will be consumers? It's not just, you can't consume when you don't have resources, right? So you need to produce and you need to consume sustainably. I need to say that. But this is why this is so poignant. And it's not it would be nice if we did this. There's no other way, Now I have to speak now with my green hat on, that the way the world has progressed to, do not say to date today, is that we've developed in what we call linear models of consumption production, the take, make, use, waste. We can't expand those because they've led us to what we call the triple planetary crisis, climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. We need to create these jobs in new spaces. So we need to look at the old way of doing things and see how are we maximizing the efficiency of natural resource use and our energy? How are we not impacting the environment, the biodiversity? And how are we reducing pollution? How are we manufacturing out waste from our processes? So therein, instantly, you see that there's opportunities for jobs. And I think for me, being African, one of the things that gives me great pride is that we used to be circular in culture.
That's true.
There was, you dare say, no waste. Everything had a purpose. If you looked at how, say, somebody went about, say, consuming an animal, a goat, for example, every part of it had, from the horn to the hooves, everything.
Now we make fun of Nigerians that they still do that, but technically we should all go back there.
Exactly. So it should be a part of our innate culture to be circular. So, but of course now we're talking about being circular in industry, being circular in things that don't have 200-300 years of worth of culture. But it's something that we can do.